Hi, this is Pat Duckworth, the author of Hot Women Rock, How to Discover Your Midlife Entrepreneurial Mojo. It's been a few weeks now since I've done an interview because I've been traveling and going to conferences. I decided it was time to get back into it because when I'm at those conferences, I meet more amazing people that I want to talk to and introduce you to. And I met just such a person in Birmingham the other week. And it's funny how you meet somebody, you hear them speaking and you think, I want to know more about that person. So my guest today has had a successful career in corporate marketing and as the owner of a direct marketing business before starting her coaching business at the end of 2014. She's a successful coach, speaker, and author of the award-winning book, Love Your Gut, The Practical Guide to Sustainable Weight Loss from the Inside Out. She's also a co-author of the Book of Inspiration for Women, the Book of Soulful Musings, Dance in the Fire of Wolves and Pivotal Moments. That sounds fascinating. So welcome my guest today, Sue Ritchie. Hi Sue, how are you?
Hi, I'm really good, Pat.
It's great. Yeah, it's really good to see you because we didn't have much chance to speak when I met you up in Birmingham. So now I get to find out all about you. So tell us about your early career. Did you straight away become an entrepreneur?
No, I didn't. I suppose it was, for me, it took a long time to actually get into doing something that I found that I really loved. So I did all sorts of different jobs after I left uni. I then started working with a publishing company and actually started as an executive PA to the marketing director. And I have a lot to thank him for, actually, my boss, because he said, you need to be doing something more. You're wasting your time being my secretary. And a product manager's job came up and he said, you know, you need to have this job. So I took to it like a duck to water.
Isn't it fantastic when you get a manager who sees that potential and actually takes action to move you on? That's amazing. So then what happened next?
So then I spent time, working my way up, actually being promoted a few times in the publishing company. And then I actually sort of discovered direct marketing in a real way. It was its very early infant stages back then. And I did a diploma in direct marketing. And then I actually started working for the first computer mail order catalogue in the UK, which was an American company, which was a great place to work, actually. The whole culture was one of empowerment of each and every member of staff, and everybody's ideas and contributions were welcomed and wanted. And I don't think I've ever since worked in an environment that was absolutely like that. It was such a pleasure to work, where you really felt valued, if you like, for everything you did.
So what skills did you develop there?
A lot of, I suppose, people management skills. Having to manage quite a big team. I started actually working in the sort of European arena as well. So learned a lot about, communication, actually, I suppose, because when you're communicating with people in other countries where English isn't their first language, you realize that you've got to be very careful and very specific about what you mean, because other people, then you think you've been clear, but actually then you realize afterwards that somebody's interpreted it in a very different way, what I meant.
Yeah, absolutely. So where did you go from there?
From there, I then joined a company actually who did promotional pens and diaries that were personalised, where I was actually heading up the European marketing team. So I had a lot to do with lots of different countries in Europe, a lot of travel and so forth. So that was a great experience too. And I suppose at that time I then had become a mother and managing children, travel, work and stuff was a new skill really that I had to learn
Yeah.
in terms of, trying to balance all those things and make sure that, I gave my children a lot of quality time.
Yeah. And then the pressure started to build up.
Well, to be honest with you, all through my career, the pressure has been there, or I created that pressure. But when you're working in marketing, as I'm sure maybe there's always deadlines, and there's always so much more that you could be doing,
Yeah.
and that then means you're working long hours and you want to get it done. That sort of led to really, a situation of being stressed quite a lot of the time. All through those years, I found it very difficult with sleep, and just because I could never sort of calm down, if you like, and release it. So, strange enough, when I look back in hindsight, there were probably, 2 or 3 quite big wake-up calls from a health point of view.
Yeah, I often think that, the universe taps you gently on the shoulder and says, it's time you did something about this. And if you ignore it, it will tap again before it kind of slaps you and says, are you going to take notice or not?
Absolutely. So really that then sort of came to, actually it was interesting. Then I came to a point where a friend of mine was a marketing consultant, and she kept saying to me for a couple of years, Sue, why don't you go on your own? Why don't you set up your own business? Why don't you set up your own business? And really sort of all things sort of in my life and relationship and partner and everything all sort of combined together to make me decide sort of, I suppose back in 2000, that this was the time that I was going to do it. Then in the January, the company that I was working for decided that they'd make me and a number of other people redundant. So
there you are. Sometimes the universe also steps in to help you.
So that helped quite a lot, if you like, from a financial point of view. And that led me actually to move 200 miles up north to where I am now, in this area, Leicester area, and start my own direct marketing business.
Oh, brilliant. So it's a huge step.
It was, and it's really interesting because so many people say to me, oh my God, you were a single parent, you sort of gave up your job, you started your business, you moved home, you bought a new house, wasn't that scary? And the interesting thing, I can honestly say that it wasn't scary at all. And I think that's because it was absolutely the right thing for me to do.
Yeah.
So everything was, pulling together for it to be the right thing. And therefore, it just sort of happened and flowed, if you like.
So you started up that business, and where did you go from there?
Well, one of the reasons why I wanted to have my own business was I wanted to have a situation, because my children were, going to childminders and stuff after school, and then I'd, pick them up when I finished work. And, I would have loved to have been in a situation where I could have been a stay-at-home mum, but it wasn't that, it just didn't work out that way. So I thought, well, this would be a good opportunity because I'm running my own business. It gives me some flexibility, so I can go and pick them up from school. They could have friends coming round for tea and, all of those little things. And I could, fit work things, more around them, if you like, and spending time with them. So that worked quite well for a while. And then the business started to grow. And then I would find myself again doing things like, after the children had gone to bed, working till 2 a.m. to finish something, and then, heading off for a meeting the next morning. And so again, the sort of pressure started, building up. And it really, I suppose, and then I met my husband, who I'm with now, and so I moved again, and we had a horrendously stressful move. Strangely enough, going through a similar situation at the moment. That really, I think, was a catalyst to, as well as the sort of work thing and just general things, where I started to have some big health issues.
Yeah. What did you start to experience?
Well, I think it was quite scary actually, because not only did I was tired all the time, which is a big issue because I'm I'm normally a person with a lot of energy, but it was what was happening with my head and my mind that was scary, because I was really finding it difficult to focus, difficult to concentrate. My brain just felt like all foggy.
Yeah.
But I think the worst thing was my memory, because there were days actually, because of like, I thought I'd put something somewhere and I couldn't find it. And I really thought, oh my God, am I going mad or something?
Yeah.
And it was like, this is horrendous, because, if I could share something that would, my memory used to be that good that when I worked in publishing, I knew the ISBN numbers of all the top-selling books that I managed. So, and to go from that to being, actually, not, thinking you put something somewhere and then finding that it wasn't there is very, very scary.
Yeah, that brain fog, a lot of women experience it, partly from stress and partly, it's one of those symptoms of menopause as well, that when the estrogen isn't flowing to the brain in the way it used to, and you start forgetting things and you just can't make decisions and you're not sleeping well. It's a horrible feeling.
Basically, what happened to me was that after several visits to doctors where they just kept telling me it was a virus and I'd be okay in a couple of weeks, to finally having a blood test and having the result that said I had Hashimoto's disease, which is an autoimmune disorder that affects your thyroid gland. And that was an interesting thing, because I'd always, be interested in alternative sort of health stuff and nutrition and whatever. So while I was sort of sitting in the doctor's surgery, I sort of said to her, oh, well, I can get my immune system back on track and I can get myself well again. And it was like the look on the doctor's face, it was like, she was like horrified and sort of turned around to me with like this sort of real sternness of, that's impossible. You're going to be on the medication for the rest of your life. And it was like, oh. There were all these thoughts sort of going through my head of, okay, because I had other health issues going on as well. I kept having problems with my breathing. I had pains in my joints. I kept having recurrent cystitis. Interesting, I've also had itchy ears, which is a bit strange, but I can explain why. And I was like 2.5 stone heavier than I am today. Nothing I did ever shifted that weight at all. So for me, I was sort of thinking, if I'm going to feel like I'm feeling today, for the next maybe, I don't know how I might live, 30 odd years or so. And, I love traveling. I've got all these dreams of doing more traveling around the world. I love learning about different cultures and things. So, and I was thinking, well, I really love, I hope I'm going to have some grandchildren at some point. Not yet, but maybe soon. And I want to be able to be, fully present with them and, active and, chase them around the garden or whatever.
Yeah.
But so I was like there thinking, shit, is this it then? Is that it now for the next 30 years? I'm going to feel like this. I'm not going to be able to do all these things that I want to do. As I sort of walked out of the surgery with my prescription, I also walked out with the decision that I was going to do everything I could to find out what was the root cause and how I could get myself well again, basically.
Yeah. And so how did you go about researching it and finding out what you needed to do?
Well, I did a lot of research on the internet, and that took a couple, I suppose, over a couple of years. But also, in that period of time, I sort of 6-7 years ago, I just hit what I call a black hole. I suppose I can sum it up as being fat, sick, and tired.
Yeah, not a good place.
And I just felt unfulfilled. And I guess I got to a realization that, working all these hours, I'm doing all this, I'm looking after everybody else. realizing it's about what about me?
Yeah.
What is, I'm doing all this, but actually it's not making me feel good. I've had very little joy. I had very little joy or whatever in my life. And I think it was that realization that, and I think getting, ill and being in that situation really brought that to the fore. And I found myself in my business hiding away.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to go out and see prospects because I didn't feel good in myself. I didn't feel confident. And as a result, the business actually, the revenue started to dry up. And at that time, I had, another member of staff who was working for me as well. It sort of ended with a situation really where somebody, a friend of mine suggested that I go to somebody's event. And I was sitting in the front row that day. And as I listened to this lady, Liz, tell her story, this emotion stuff was just welling up inside of me, and the tears started to roll down my cheeks, because I just realized that, and it's like, how could I have gone 40 odd years not realizing that I always thought I was the only one who felt that they weren't good enough, that and I've always had this thing, you can't communicate very well, you don't speak very well, nobody wants to listen to what you've got to say. Somebody else actually feels like me. How can that be?
I know, it's extraordinary when you discover that, isn't it? So this is Pat Duckworth, and I'm talking to Sue Ritchie, who's a coach and an author and a public speaker. And so Sue, from that sort of dark place, you then moved forward into becoming a coach. Tell us about that.
I did. Well, I think that particular event that I went to, for me, there were two life-changing decisions that actually came about from it. One was when they described the program that they had, my heart said, you've got to do this. My head said, Sue, you've got no money. How can you? And it had a price tag of £2,500. And luckily, my heart won. I listened to my heart. I got out my credit card and I just paid for it. And, and I know that had I not done that, I wouldn't be here today, being able to help other people, basically.
Yeah.
But the second decision which came out of that was making a decision that I needed to actually look at the business differently. That I needed to shrink the business. I needed to take time out for myself. So I did that, and it was a difficult decision making somebody who was working for me redundant.
Yeah.
Because I thought, oh God, what if she doesn't get a job, and I'm going to be responsible because she can't pay a mortgage and all of those things. But of course, she got a job, very easily, very quickly. And it was a really interesting experience, really, because I shrunk the business, decided to only work with my existing customers. I started taking time out for myself. I went, walking in nature a lot. I started meditating on a daily basis. So really started to bring some self-care practices into my life. And amazingly enough, some work-life balance.
Yep. And how did that work out?
Well, I mean, I suppose two things came out of it. One was, but the answer to my health issues just popped into my head one day after meditating.
Yeah.
And it basically said one word, which was Candida. So that then led me on a journey to actually research about Candida and find out more about it. And as I did and looked at the symptoms, I could just tick them all off. So that then was like, okay, I found a way then of how I needed to actually get and this, what we're talking about here is what's happening in the gut. It is the most important fundamental thing that underpins health and whether you're going to stay healthy or you're going to get a disease.
Yeah. Yeah. What we eat, we're so lax about what we eat in terms of thinking of it as the building blocks for our physical health and our mental health and our emotional health. What you're eating is affecting all of those things. And we just put stuff in without really thinking about what it's doing.
No, and the issue behind that is that the busyness, as I call it, this you know, life of being busy all the time, not having quiet time for yourself, means we've lost that connection with why do we eat?
Yeah.
We eat to take care of our body, to feed it, to be able to give us energy, to give us, you know, what we need to live a good life. But we've now sort of put eating to the bottom of the pile because all the doing and action and everything has got such a high priority that we just, you know, go and grab food just quickly just to fill that hunger pang. And unfortunately, when we do that, we make the wrong choices inevitably, just grabbing anything, if you like, just to fill that hole.
Yeah, and often it's an emotional hole that we're filling rather than actually a physical hunger. We could talk about that for a long time. I just want to find out a bit more about your business. So when you're coaching now, what are you coaching people on? How are you helping them?
Well, what I discovered was the second result was when I actually got a work-life balance. I was taking time out. I had all the self-care in place and was meditating and had created a daily self-care routine. Was that my business did not fall apart. In fact, the opposite happened. In that year, I actually doubled my turnover and I almost doubled my profit. Because what I learned was that it's not about the hours that you put in. It's not about working harder. It's about working smarter.
Mm.
And getting the right focus in the right areas, if you like, that's going to take your business to the next level. Because I'm sure you and anybody else who's listening is, you get the grid between the urgent, the important, the not urgent, and the not important. How much time do we find ourselves spending in the not urgent, not important, fiddling around on social media, emails and stuff like that? Whereas if we actually focused on the key things in our business that are actually going to move us forward, then, success would come far, far more easily.
Yeah, that's really important. So you've mentioned that word success, and a question that I love asking to my interviewees is, what does success mean to you?
It's a very interesting, I think success has meant different things to me over my lifetime. But I think now, with all the benefit of hindsight, that success is about doing what you love, really feeling that you're fulfilled in what you're doing. And it's also about having good health, knowing that you're actually treating yourself kindly and valuing yourself. Because I truly believe that if you're doing work or a job or you're running a business that you really love, and I'd actually say success isn't necessarily about the money. Because if you do what you love, I believe the money comes.
Yeah. And rarely when I talk to successful entrepreneurs are they focused on the money. They're really focused on how they're serving people and, the value that they're giving. So, yeah, very different way of thinking about it. So if you had 3 tips to give to new entrepreneurs, what would you be telling them?
I would be telling them that I think that the success of business really depends on you making sure that you show up as the best version of yourself all the time, which really means you have to take care of yourself. You have to look after your body. You have to look after your mental health as well. And by doing that, everything else will fall into place.
So Sue, people watching, if they'd like to find out more about you, how can they do that?
They can do that by going to my website, which is www.sue-ritchie.com, sue-ritchie.com. Also, obviously, you can connect with me on Facebook, either through my own personal page or my business page, which is the business page is Your Ecstatic Health.
Lovely. And your book, tell us again what the title of your book is.
My book title is Love Your Gut, The Practical Guide to Sustainable Weight Loss from the Inside Out.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts with us. And so if I was going back over it, What have I learned from it? You know, it's that bit about looking after yourself so that, you know, you can look after your business. And it's that constant learning and researching that you've done as well. You know, I can see an entrepreneurial career where you've been developing all of the time, and that you're bringing that together now in what you offer to your clients. So I love all of that. But that big learning is about taking that time out for yourself, and not thinking that if you look after yourself, somehow the business is going to suffer. Probably the reverse will be true. So thank you for sharing all of that, Sue.
Okay. It's been a pleasure.
And to all our viewers, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again the next time when I'm interviewing another wonderful entrepreneur. Take care.